Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and today's tutorial is on how to make this 6x8 quick easy mini album that only has one paper pack, one 12x12 paper pack of the Stamperia Passion, and I think it just came out wonderfully. And we have some lace on the spine and the colors are just amazing. Right off the bat here, what we have is a fold out, and it's magnetic, and you can write or journal right here about the pictures that are in here, or you can place a photograph. Let's open it up. So what we have here is a large fold out, but it's also a pocket. I think that came out so nice, and we put some of that lace here. We open it up, and back here on the back page I did add some lace at the end of the tutorial. We went back and added lace if we wanted it, and I decided to utilize it as a pocket if I wanted to. I can place a photo here and then a photograph on my picture mat and then get that right on in there. This is a great place to plant a photo, and it opens up again, so lots of room for photographs. Now over here we left it alone so you can just place photographs. Again, we go on to page 3 here and we can place photographs. And what I decided to do for this to make it quick and easy is we are repeating the design, just sticking it on a different page. So here's our fold out with our front pocket. And it folds out. Here's the back. I have a couple picture mats in there. And it folds out again, so lots of room for this. Next page, what I did was I just used a little bit of lace to accent the page a little onto the side so I can place a photograph here. Again, we have our fold out and our pocket. I thought that came out so pretty. And we open it up. Here's a place. Open it up again. And we have this. Here's our back pocket. I have a couple picture mats in there. So this really looks nice once it's all put together. Hope you like the design of this. This is what we're going to make. It's a one-part video. And please be sure to comment below the video in the comment section. What do you think? Do you want to see more quick and easy tutorials, or are you more apt for the folios and the larger albums? Before we move into the materials list, one thing I do want to say is in this tutorial we don't do the picture mats together because everyone has their own size and taste of pictures and stuff. So that is something you will be doing at the end by yourself. And feel free to just kind of look and see what I've done here. Nothing special. I have the white cardstock and I've mounted my decorative paper on it. Alright, let's move to the materials list. Materials list for this. Well, there's not a whole lot here to this easy quick mini album, but I am going to use one pack of the Stamperia Passion 12x12. Now there's 10 double-sided sheets in here, and that's all we are going to need, and it is absolutely beautiful. You're going to want one piece of 12x12 chipboard. You're going to need some Tyvek. Now this is a scrap piece. I do sell them in the envelope style, and you just cut some strips off this. And Tyvek is a material that is hard to tear. It's what's going to keep our album binding together if anything should fail for you. So you are going to want, I'm using 110-pound white cardstock, and this is the coordinations, and I'll be using that for my inner pages and inside the album. You're going to want 2 sheets of 65-pound 8.5 by 11 white cardstock, and this is just for our album wrap. The 65-pound makes it very easy to wrap. You're going to want magnets. I am using lace on mine, and this is such a gorgeous lace. It's about 3¼ inch wide, and I believe it's called Pointed Floral. I'll have the link on the PDF for you under the materials, but this is what we are going to use to wrap around our spine, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And this is just 1 yard. Okay, adhesives. I'm using the Art Glitter Dries Clear glue and 3/8 inch score tape. I am making my own flowers, and I only need 2 for the cover, and I did do the leaves. So really quick, if you're not a flower maker, you can buy packaged flowers, but I'll show you what I use just in case you already have the stamp and die or you would like to get it. So for the flowers, Oakberry Lane Blossoms die and the Oakberry Lane Blossom stamp. And if you're new to die cutting and haven't seen this, you just stamp the image, you place the plate over your image, and you cut it out, and then you can ink it or ink it before. I do have some flower shaping tutorials that are for beginners and just some basic. The ink I used for the flower was I used the Tim Holtz Distress ink, and it's called Victorian Velvet. And then I use lemon chiffon, and these are the pearls. And you can see they're just the little things that you glue down to the inside, sprinkle them in. For the leaf, and I only need 1, I use the Leafy Accent Stamp and Die. Any leaf stamp and die that you have are going to work. And I did 2 colors on my leaves, and that was the peeled paint and crushed olive to get that effect. If you are wanting to learn how to make these, again, I have a link under the video for the flower shaping. And I did use my Heartfelt Creations Deluxe Flower Shaping Kit. But they do have a more inexpensive kit that's called the Essentials. And I think I have some of those in stock too, in case that you just need the basics. And this can be done with the basics. All right, let's move on in to building the base album. We're going to start off with the album wrap pieces. These are 8.5 by 10 inches. They are on 65-pound cardstock. And we're going to grab our 3/8 inch score tape, and we are going to seam these together. On one side, and we are 10 inches tall, we're going to lay it right at the edge without going over. Just on one side of our piece. Next, we're going to burnish it down, and if you are new and a beginner, you'll always want to burnish down any adhesive, whether it be liquid glue or your double-sided tape. And what that does is it gets the air out from underneath the double-sided tape, so it makes perfect contact with your paper so you don't get liftage. So just make sure you burnish that down. To seam these 2 together, what I like to do, and I'm going to grab my paper cutter out because I'm going to be using the flat edge of the paper guide up here to keep me straight. So I am going to adjust the camera just a little bit. There we go. So I am 8.5 inches wide, and I'm 10 inches tall. I'm going to remove the backing off that double-sided tape, the score tape, and I'm going to push this right on up against the paper guide. I'm going to take this piece, and I'll just slip it underneath over here, but I'm going to push that up onto the paper guide. Now I'm going to watch what I'm doing here, but what I'm trying to do is overlap this onto the score tape so that it covers it and my page is even with each other. So let me show you. And then I'm going to burnish. Alright, so we have this, and do not worry about any of the writing. It will get covered up. Next, we're going to grab our 1.5 by 8 inch chipboard spine piece. And what we're going to do is grab our score tape, and I'm going to move this out of the way. And what we're going to do is lay score tape down next to each other on this. And I think 3 pieces will work. And we're going to burnish that down, making sure it's down pretty good. So I do clip off any overhang of score tape because we do want a clean album if we're going to put the work into this. Before I remove the score tape backing, I'm going to adjust the camera again, bring it back so you can see my workspace just a little better there. Here is our seam right here. As you can see, it's pretty white so it's hard to see, but you can see where my seam is. This piece here, when I remove the score tape, and we'll do it together, but I like to show you so you know what's going on beforehand. We'll remove that. We're going to place this directly over that seam. So the seam is going to end up halfway behind the middle point of this chipboard. When we place this down, we're going to place this so that we have about 1 inch here and 1 inch down here. If you'd like to measure it, you can, or you can just eyeball that. So let's do that. I'm going to eyeball it, but you do need to center this as best you can. If you're a little bit off, it's okay. Okay, you just want to make sure that you are straight and even as best you can. So I'm going to go probably right around there and hope that's even. And I think it is. So I just place that down. Don't worry about burnishing it down just yet. Let's set this off to the side. Let's grab our 2 8x6 covers. Let's grab our score tape. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go all the way around the outside edges like a picture frame. Here's a tip about score tape. It's not forgiving, but you want to keep your fingers off the tape as much as possible. It's kind of like Scotch tape. If you ever notice you get your fingerprint on the back side of the Scotch tape, pretty much that's the oils or whatever lotions that you have, it decreases the potency of your score tape. So my biggest tip is we always wash our hands with soap and water to get off any lotion or oils off our fingertips before we start to handle it, because it's almost impossible not to touch it. So we have that down, and we're going to do the same with this one. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go one down the middle, and we're going to go 2 strips on either side of that middle point. Alright, let's do the same here. I've got both mine done. Now I'm going to give it a good burnishing to get down all that score tape and get the air out from underneath it. Alright, here we go. We're going to get this on. So I'm going to show you first before we do it. When I remove this backing off the score tape, when I place this, I'm going to place this leaving about a 1/4 inch space away. This is a wrap style album. You have to have that spacing in. And we're also going to place it even here and here with the top and the bottom of the spine. And we will do the same thing over here, leaving a 1/4 inch space between the side of the spine and this cover. So let's do that really quick. Okay, here's my first one. I'm going to leave about a 1/4 inch, and I'm going to try and keep my head out of the video. Alright, I'm going to go with it right here and place it. And now it's time to get the backing off this one. Okay, here we go. 1/4 inch spacing in between that, and try to keep it even. I think I'm pretty good right there. Hopefully. All right, I have that down. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to be very careful, and I'm going to burnish. So the first thing I would like us to do is put your hand here, slide your hand under here, and just kind of help this fold a little. So once you have that, and you've kind of folded it over with your hand, you can take, if you don't have one of these and you're using this, use not the tip where it's going to dig in, use maybe the rounded part to help you, just to kind of get this going. And then what you can use the back side, the flat side, to comb it on over. So we're going to get this ready over here. Now don't worry if you have more space over here than here. It does not matter because you're not going to see the difference. This is just a real quick mini, and we're not going to worry about that because you ain't going to see it. Okay, so we have that. Now what we're going to do is kind of flatten those down a little, and we're going to start working with this part, and we're going to slowly do this because we have our seam right here, and sometimes with your seam, when you're folding it over, it sometimes will give you what's called the splits. And no worries if you get it. We will definitely be able to fix that, so don't worry if you do. So we're just working it right now, little bits at a time, and we're going to take our tool and we will help it. Getting up next to the chipboard, and then combing it over. So that's just going to help us when we do our wrap. And we're going to repeat that. Now that we have that done, before we can do the rest of this, let's grab our Tyvek. We have 2 pieces, and those are 1 inch by 8 inch. All we're going to do with the Tyvek is we're going to line a piece of score tape down each side, and that should be plenty enough. Alright, we'll do the same with this one. Now, the Tyvek is going to want to wobble. It's very flexible. And if you get any crinkles or wrinkles in it, don't worry about it. You're not going to see it. This gets covered. This is just our backup to make sure that the album binding never comes apart between here. And this is just how I do it. Some people don't use it. I do. Okay, let's burnish. And I'm going to show you first before we do it. I'm going to release the score tape backing, and I'm going to center this top and bottom right over the spacing. Again, if you get wrinkles or anything, or if you get a seam like this, don't worry about it. It's okay. So I'm going to try and be even with this. And if it goes on crooked, again, it's getting covered, so no worries. Okay, if you have a seam that is quite a bit like this, what you can do is just take a little of your glue underneath it and burnish it down. We're going to get the other side now, and we're going to do the same thing. Okay, make sure it's down. That is good enough. Now we're going to grab our score tape, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go right underneath the chipboard, right on our cardstock, all the way around. And once we get it all the way around next to the chipboard, we're going to go on the outside edges. But we don't need to bring it all the way to the corner because that part gets clipped off. For making our finished edges looking nice, we'll be wrapping in some edges there. And I'll burnish down in just a bit. So I have that down. Next, I'm going to come over here, and I can leave about a 1/2 inch away or so. And I'm going to go right along that edge without going over my paper. Again, I'll come in and stop and then continue on. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our scissors. And you see where the corner of our chipboard is? Well, we're going to be cutting at an angle, leaving 1/8 inch away. So I'm going to bring this up and show you. And you don't need to measure this part, just try to get it at an angle and leave about 1/8 or so away from that corner. And we're going to do this all the way around. Okay, we don't need that. We're going to start with the sides, and I'm going to release the score tape backing. Alright, what we're going to do here is we're going to fold in the sides. Whoops. And we'll just give that a good burnish. Now for the top and the bottom. Now don't jump ahead because we do need to push in our corners. Let's start with the bottom one. You should have your tool like this, normally as you would hold it, the flat up, the curved down, or however your tool is. If it's just one, it doesn't matter. What we're looking at is right around in here. We're going to put this down on the edge. We'll kind of hold this down a little bit if we can, and we're going to come around and push that in. And I'll show you what happened there. Focus. Now we're going to do it over here. Come around the edge, and it should poke in. Pull it up, see? Now we're ready to fold this up. And I like to start in the middle and then press on out. If you get any wrinkles, don't worry, we have another sheet that lays over this. Okay, once you have that, let's burnish it down. And we can press down any of the corners. Now, if you get the splits, like mine did kind of split right there, I'll show you, it's not a big deal. Make sure your hands are clean before you do this. What you're going to do is just dab a little bit of your glue right up in there. Oops, just a little bit. Then with a clean finger, you're going to grab it and go with it like that. And usually once will do it. If not, you can pat it one more time, but don't touch it again because this glue will dry fairly quickly and it will start tearing at it if you keep dabbing. But now you can see I don't have it anymore and you can't see it. Not a biggie. It usually only happens on seams for me. We're going to do the same exact thing. I almost started folding this without tucking. So we're going to take our tool, fold in our edges. I almost forgot. Press it. And we're going to burnish. And I had enough adhesive still left on this so I didn't have to put any more score tape over that. If you got any of those little splits on your seam, let's take care of it. The next piece that we are going to want is our 3 by 7 3/4. We're going to lay score tape on the side that we wrote on, and then we're going to place it right over the spine and the Tyvek area. This should clear your Tyvek. If it doesn't, and you see Tyvek, it doesn't matter. We still have another piece to lay down. That should get covered up. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't know what that is. It looks like a little ink mark. It should get covered up. let's grab our score tape, and the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to line this all the way around like a picture frame first. So to ensure we have all of our edges. If you have any score tape that peeks over the edge when you check it, definitely clip it off. Alright, next what we're going to do is we are going to lay score tape right next to each other all the way across. This piece is vital because it goes down, and then what goes on the other side is our hinges. So we don't want any liftage. We want to make sure this is completely down. Now if your double-sided tape overlaps a little onto the other one, it's okay. Let's burnish this down, and then we will inspect our piece. So as you can see, and I'm going to bring this up, and hopefully I can get it behind the little black cardstock down here so you can see, I have overhang. That needs to be clipped off. So check your piece thoroughly. I look good. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the backing, and when I place this, it's very important, you are going to place this so that you have even amounts of headspace and foot space. Headspace is, here's the edge, and I have some of this showing up there. Down below, same thing. That's what you want, evenly and straight. In the beginning of my tutorials, I go really slow so that everyone has the opportunity to learn and to get their stuff done, so they don't feel overwhelmed if I'm talking too fast, if I'm going too fast. Here we go. So I can see right here where my grooves are, that spacing. If you were to place your hand over your Tyvek, you will be able to see that. Your Tyvek on either side, like I said, if it ends up to where it's showing, don't worry. Mine is going to cover. Now remember to leave that spacing, some even spacing. If it's not quite even, that's okay. And I don't want to put my head in the video, but I think this is fairly straight. Let me see. It is straight enough. So now what we're going to do is we are going to burnish that. We're not going to fold in our album just yet. We're going to burnish this down really good. Make sure that it's all down, because when we fold in, the reason why we completely cover that too is when we fold in, we don't want any of our paper bubbling up. We want it to lay flat, and that's why I don't use glue on that part. We have two pieces here, inside cover. Grab those, set them aside. Put your hand right here, because we're ready to place those. Put your hand right here on the spine. Put a hand under here, under your cover, and slowly pull up your side. Now don't wrap it all the way over. It's not meant to do that. It just needs to come up a little bit, and you should not get any splits. If you did it right, there will be absolutely no splits. That's what that spacing's for. Okay, other hand down. We're going to pull up the other side now. And you will notice I have no bubbling up on my spine from air pockets or anything like that. So I'm just going to slowly kind of give it a little bit here. If you do see some bubbling up, you need to quickly grab your tool and burnish it. That means you didn't burnish down all your tape well enough. Alright, so here is what we have. Nice clean little album. Okay, let's open this up. Our inside covers, I'm going to show you what happens with these. We're going to put square tape on the side that we have the writing. And you can see where your little hinge area is. This piece here is going to line up with the top and bottom of your little white spine piece you just put down. You're not going to go over to the crease. What you're going to do is bring it over probably about 1/4 of an inch away from that spacing or whatever, but you're going to make it look an even top and bottom with the white, and it will look like this. There is my hinge right here, and you can see, and like this. So that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like a nice finished little album on the inside before we get our pages in. I'm going to use score tape, and I'm going to go around the outside edges like a picture frame. So let's do that. And whatever we do on this one, we're going to do on this one the same. So we have that. Next, we're going to go one down the middle, and we can go one on each side. Let's burnish that down. Whoops, I hit the camera. Let's burnish that down, and then let's do the same for this one. I have both mine done. I got a little crazy sideways with my score tape over there, but that isn't going to matter. We're going to remove the score tape backing and place it. And we're going to be placing this together, of course. One thing I wanted to say too, if you are a beginner, and maybe this is the first time that you've visited my channel, first time you've made a mini, I do want you to know most of my albums, even though they may look a little scary on the front, they look a little too elaborate or too much that you can still take that tutorial. I do take you step by step. So just know that my tutorials are all step by step that are for that. So I'm going to try and get this even now as best I can and lay that. I got a little further over than I wanted to, but that's okay. I did not want to get my head in the video. I'll just do the same on the other side, how close I got, and it'll all be good. Okay, looks good. And we're going to give that a good burnishing. Here it is. I hate that little mark I got, but we're going to put something on over that anyway. Let's grab our last two pieces to our base album, and that is our inner page. On the pre-cutting guide, we had to score. I'm going to grab my scoring board here. We cut two pieces that were 6 1/4 by 7 3/4, and we called that our inner page. On each one, what we did was we laid it on our scoring board, so we were 6 1/4 inch across, and we scored each one at 1/2 inch. And that's all we did. All the scoring and everything's on the pre-cutting guide, so you should all have that. Alright, let's go ahead and fold on those score lines, and make sure you use your tool to help crisp up those edges. What we're going to do is we're going to have it to where the peak is up. So your writing may be on this side, it may be upside down, it doesn't matter. We're just going to lay some score tape on this. We're going to need our 3/8 score tape. So the peak is up, and I have that little score, and we're going to lay one piece of our 3/8 inch score tape right along that, and we're not going to get it on the score line. Once we've done that, we are going to burnish really well. And we're going to inspect it to make sure we have no score tape overhanging. So here's my next one. The peak is up, and we're going to lay a piece of score tape. And we're going to burnish, and we're going to grab our book. So this is very simple. I'm going to show you first before we do it. So here is my peak, and here's my score tape. I'm going to remove the backing, and I'm going to turn it. The score tape's underneath here, the sticky. I'm going to pull up one side of my album, and I'm going to stick this right on up against that edge right here when it hits, and I'm going to line this up with the top and bottom of that white piece of cardstock we laid. It's kind of like our guide. So again, I'll pull this up, I'll take this, I'll line it up with the bottom and the top, and I will press that down. So you can watch me. The first one's the most difficult, the rest just fall in line. So I'll pull that up. My sticky is underneath. I'll line that up with the bottom. I think that's in. And I will press. And I'm going to burnish that. Really good. Fold that over and burnish. So here's the next one. Very easy. I'm going to remove that. Sticky side is down. Here's our first page. All we're going to do is butt this up right next to that, and it will line us up. Just like that. Very easy. So there's our pages. And we have a small little mini here. And of course we have our inner pages and stuff to do. So what I would like you to do, especially because I'm going to erase where it says inner pages. You can do that too if you want, or you don't have to. It's up to you. But what I'm going to do is grab my pencil now. And we're going to label. We're on the inside. Here's the inside cover. We're going to put a number 1. And you can write right in the middle on this because it gets covered with our decorative paper. Here's page 2. Here's page 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we have 6 pages to decorate on the inside, and then of course we have the front and back cover. So you don't get turned around, we're now going to, here's the inside, here's our front, here's our back. So that way, when we're working with the album, we don't get turned around, especially if we haven't placed our paper yet. We're going to do that next, but it does help to keep us going the right way rather than switching around and putting the front here when we're like this. We are now moving on to decorating the outside. We are on decorating the outside of our mini album, and we had one pre-cut, and it was 5 5/8 by 7 1/2. And what we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 7 1/2 across, and we scored at 3 3/4. That's it. So we're going to set this off to the side for now, and we're going to get into our decorative paper. And here is our album, and we're going to start cutting for the paper to get on the front, the spine, the back, and getting this all ready to go. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print, and on the back, it looks like this. So one thing that I do is I try to stay consistent on telling you how to measure. So I usually start here, and I'll tell you to measure over like this way, whether we are looking at our paper like this, measuring over this way, or like this. So let's begin. We are going to turn our paper sideways, and we're going to measure over 7 7/8, and we're going to cut. I'm going to get my paper cutter out, and we'll do a few of these cuts together. So in case I was not clear on my instructions, and sometimes people just like to see. So over here, right here is my blade, right here. So looking at it like this, I'm going to measure over 7 7/8 and cut. So 7 7/8, and I'm going to cut. For now, we're going to stick this off to the side in our scrap pile, and I call that our reserve pile. So a reserve pile, scrap pile, same thing. Our next cut, we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut that right in half. So 6 inches and cut. So what this is going to be is when we place this down on our cover and we kind of maneuver it to where it is centered, you should be able to see a little bit of your white border all the way around. And same goes when we stick it on the back. So we're going to flip this over and we're going to grab our score tape. If you are someone who would rather use glue, use it. I use score tape. So first thing I'm going to do is go around the outside edges like a picture frame without going over. And I'm going to inspect this before I place it to clip off any overhang of score tape. Once you have your score tape down, we're just going to go one down the middle. And we'll put one on either side. I think that will be okay. On our other sheet, we're going to do exactly the same thing we just did on that. So let's get that ready. Once we have both of them done, we're going to burnish down our tape really good. And then we're going to turn it over and clip off, whoops, any overhang of score tape that we can see. And I look pretty good there. So let's burnish that and then we're going to place it. For now, I'm going to stick one off to the side. When we place this, once again, we will be placing it down, centering it, so we have a little bit of a white border to the side, the top, and the bottom. And you should be able to see it like a sliver over here. So sometimes, because this is a large piece and score tape is not forgiving, what you can do so you have time to maneuver is, this is going to be at the top, so I'm going to flip this over, but you can put a line of glue at the top like this so that if you start by placing it at the top, you can still maneuver it around. So I don't want to get my head in the video, so I'm going to do the best I can. And get that on there. Once I have it down, I'm going to burnish it down really good. So even if you used just glue and you didn't use the score tape, you're going to want to burnish to spread that glue out and around, and especially get towards those edges. Alright, we're going to flip it over. We're going to remove the score tape, check it first for any overhang, and I do see something there. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. So let's do that. And here I go. And now I can just kind of open this up and give a real good burnish all the way around this. Now we're going to cut for the spine. In your reserve pile, you will have this beautiful piece. And what we're going to first do is we're going to measure over 7 7/8 and cut. After making that cut, this little piece we'll put off in our reserves. We'll turn our piece looking at it like this. We're going to measure over 1 5/8 and cut. After making that cut, you'll have this piece here that fell off the side will go into our reserves. So this is where we're going to check, and before we do anything, and we're just going to place this right along the spine, and we're going to check to make sure that we fit in there, and we should have some white border all the way around. And I'm going to get my score tape on the back here. So I'm just going to go all the way around like a picture frame to start, and then I'll do one down the middle. So after putting my score tape on, this is what it looks like, and I'm going to give a good burnish, and I'm going to place it. Alright, I'm going to pull this back up. I like to look at mine when it's closed. It's easier for me actually to get it even with the top of the corner here and the corner there. Now, if you get this piece on just a little bit crooked, it's okay because we have that lace that's going to come over. So we have our lace right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece that will fit from top to bottom. Mine's a little crooked here, so I'm going to even this up. Now, one thing about using the art glitter glue, it will hold it down. We do not want to glue it down while it's open. We're going to need to have this glued down like this because the sides are going to wrap over. The excess will wrap over onto, and we want to be able to go like this. That way, if you do it this way, you're going to glue it to where it isn't going to be able to shut anymore. So I'm just measuring up now. Make sure I got top to bottom, and I'll trim if needed. All right, so I've got my piece. I'm going to open this up. Now, one thing is if you use this glue, it will try to absorb first the material, so you may have to go a little heavy on it, and you'll be patting it, allowing it to dry, and then you'll glue onto the side. If you have a fabric, and it will stay, it just takes longer for it to dry and to grab. If you have a fabric glue, like fabric tack, that's helpful because it does grab a lot better. There we go. So I'm going to use the fabric tack. If all you have is the art glitter, that's fine. I'll make sure I get the top. I'm going to go along the sides, make sure I get everything I need covered. And again, I'm going to do this while it's up. And if I need to cut off any excess, I will. This should be good enough here. I'm going to even mine up a little. Make sure it's straight. So right now all I'm going to do is kind of close it to make sure I have even overhang on each side. And then I'm going to glue down these pieces. And again, it has to be closed while you do this. So I'm going to get this. I'm going to get right along that edge there. And again, if you are just using the art glitter glue, it's going to take you a while to get this to get down and then this. So look how pretty that is. That looks pretty good. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do this side, making sure I get that edge. All right, I'm going to give that a moment to dry, and then we're going to just set this off to the side while we work on our 5 5/8 by 7.5 folder. We're just going to fold on that score line. We'll use our tool here, and we can set that off with our book, and we're going to get into our paper. In your paper pack, you will find this with the panels, and on the back it looks like this. The first thing I would like you to do is put this on your paper cutter, and we're going to cut all the way straight down right there to divide these away from here. Once you have that, this is what you should have. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put this on our paper cutter, and we're going to cut all the way around this image, and I'll show you mine. So after cutting that, this can go back in your reserves. You should have a piece that looks like this. It has no white around it. Let's grab our folder, and we're going to place that on there and try to center it, and it should give us a little bit of a white border all the way around like that. Now let's glue this down. If you need to pause the video to do these tasks, then do so. So the opening is right here of our folder. And we'll give that a good burnishing. Okay, let's grab a magnet. And I have some in this pack. We'll grab a plus and we'll grab a minus. So we're just going to open that up. We'll grab a plus. We'll come in a good inch and we will place that. Now we're going to close that and let the mate find itself. I'm going to squirt a little glue in here so it will stay. And now, once your glue sets, we can carefully open this up, and we're going to get our paper for this. In your reserves, you will have this piece. On the back, it looks like this. What we're going to do is stick this on our paper cutter, and we're going to cut right like that to divide these from here. In your reserves, you should also have this. And here's our piece. What we're going to do is we're going to put this on our paper cutter and we're going to cut out and around this. And let's leave the blue border and see if that'll work for us. Let's start there. After doing that, this is what I have. If I flip it over, that looks like it's going to fit right on in there. What we're going to do with this piece that we just cut off is we're going to cut right down the middle. It's the violin one that we want. So once we cut that, this piece goes in our scrap pile. This one we're going to cut out and around. And I'll show you mine. So when you're done, this is what we are looking for. So now you have an option, and these should be pretty much the same. You can place it down like this, and you'll have a place for your photograph. Or you can turn it around whichever way you want and do it like that. I'm going to apply glue to this, and I'm going to glue these down just as you see them. So let's do that. The magnet, you'll want to get a little glue around that. And I'm going to center it in there best I can without hitting my score line. And check to make sure you don't have any glue seeping out, because once this closes, if there is, it'll tear when you try to open it up. All right, let's close it. What we're going to do is remove the backing here off the back here. And now what we're going to do is use glue. Make sure you're looking at the front of your album, and we're going to center that on there. Just like that. And that is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to open this up now, and I'm going to burnish here. And you'll want to be careful of your magnet, not to catch it with the edge. Just kind of get this down. Okay, leaves. So here is the thing. I'm going to glue down my leaves like this. I'll place one here, and I'll place one here. Now, one thing is notice that if you have like little curly cues that are going to go off the edge of this piece, clip them. Because if you do, what's going to happen is it's going to get caught over there. So we just want to make sure that our leaves are placed on our piece. Alrighty, decorating the outside of our album is complete. I'm going to allow this to dry. It looks good, and we will be moving on to page 1. We're on page 1, and we have 2 pre-cuts from our pre-cutting guide. And we're going to go ahead and review that. The first piece I had you cut was a 7.5 by 11 inch, and we called it PG1 for page 1 fold out. What we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 11 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch, whoops, 1/2 inch, 5/8, and 6. And that's what we did. And then for our second one, we had a 4 3/4 by 6 1/8. And what we did to start was we laid this on our scoring board. We were 4 3/4 across. We scored it at a 1/2. Then the instructions said to turn your paper so that you are now 6 1/8 across. You score it at 1/2 and 5 5/8. And we labeled that our pocket. First thing we're going to do is find this paper in our paper pack. It's lovely. On the back, it looks like this. So we're going to turn it sideways to where the violin is up here. This is down here. We're going to measure over 7 1/2 inches and cut. Once you make that cut, this is what you have. For now, let's put this in our reserves. Now we're going to look at it like this, and we're going to make 2 cuts. What we're going to do is we're going to measure over 5 1/2 inches and cut. We'll measure over again 5 1/2 inches and cut. After making that, you'll have 2 panels. We're going to set this one off to the side. This is going to be for our page 2. So don't put it in your reserve so you don't accidentally grab into it. We're going to just set it off to the side. We're going to use this as our page 1. And the first thing that we want to get after is our 7 1/2 by 11 fold out. And all we're going to do is start folding on these score lines. This over here where there are 2 narrow ones, this is our hinge. And our hinge will end up being off to the left. So we just want to make sure we're accurate on folding on those score lines. So once you've done that, I've folded back on those score lines. This next one, so here all the peaks are down. We're just going to fold that in. And when you fold it in, make sure you line up with the top and bottom of the other side of this. So when we're done, here is your hinge off to the left, and it's going to want to go backwards. And then this one folds back behind. So we're going to attach this really quick. You have 2 score lines. You have an outside score line and an inside score line. On the outside one, we're going to pinch and we're going to crease it. So you'll still be able to see that other score line. Okay, I'm going to leave mine out, and you'll want to as well, but what we're going to do is slide that hinge back behind our piece. And you'll line it up, so once you have it there in place, even with top and bottom of your decorated paper, and when you're pinching this, you should be able to see this print. Hold it firmly with 2 hands and flip it over and keep your hand down. If this slides out of alignment, you'll have to readjust it. So right now I'm going to place this hand down. I'm going to grab my glue. I'll just use this finger to fold it back. And I'm going to add a line of glue to that so that now it will glue down back behind my sheet. Just like that. Okay. So now what we can do is we can just fold this in. It will clear. And now we're going to fold against that other score line, kind of push it. So now what we have is that. That's our spacing in there. Okay, let's open that up. We need a couple magnets. We're going to set our magnets now. So we'll want a plus and we will want a minus. Let's grab the plus. This is where the magnet's going to go. Right there. Okay, I'm going to push this down. I'm coming over to the left and about 1 inch in from the side. So when you open it up like this to look at the back, you'll see this, this, and magnet over here. When we're opened up like this, there is nothing until you fold that in like that. And then we're going to fold it in again. Now this should line up and you should be able to be even looking at it like this. You'll see even over here. You're not going to be cattywampus where you only see a sliver of your decorative paper here and a big amount down here. You want to make sure that's even. And when you have that even, that will tell you that you got this semi-even over here when you folded it. So that looks good to me. So I have it like this, and I'm just going to turn this whole piece over. let the mate find it. And I'm keeping pressure and down so it's flat. And I'm going to just lift that, place a little glue under there. And I'm going to let that glue catch and dry. So one thing is the magnets are very strong. So we have one back under here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of put my hand down and lift straight up, kind of using my fingers as a wedge to open that up. And we're going to open up this. Now we're going to find our paper for in here. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print on the back. It looks like this. We're going to turn it sideways, measure over 7 1/4 inches, and cut. After making that cut, this is what you should have. We're going to turn it so this border is over here. We're going to measure over 4 7/8 and cut. When you make that cut, here's your 4 7/8. We'll turn that around. The next one is measuring over 5 1/8 and cutting. And we'll turn that around. So these both should fit in here. Make sure your writing is the right way, but if you were to place this in here, you will fit just inside without hitting that score line. And we'll center that top to bottom. We'll glue that down. The same with this one. It will fit right in there. You'll line it up with the top of this one, making sure you don't hit your score line, and gluing that down, and we will burnish. I have mine down and I have it burnished. We're going to pull in one side and we are going to find our paper for this. And the perfect piece is this, in your reserves. And we are about, on this one we're about 4 3/4, so it will clear both sides, giving us a nice border. So let's look at it with the rows over here. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. We'll apply glue, and we're going to glue that down right on over that magnet. If you prefer that side, you can do that. We have that down. Let's fold it like that, and we're going to get our paper for this. In your reserves, you will find this piece. It's a square. On the back, it looks like this. So what we're going to do is use up some scraps here because we can get away with it. And we'll need our little pocket pre-cut off to the side. So what I would like you to do also is find one of these clippings. And these clippings are some of the ones that came off the side of our panel. Does not matter how long it is at this point, other than it should come down probably about 3/4 of the way down on your sheet. Anyway, what we're going to first do is grab our ruler, and we are going to situate that. Line up your 0 over here, and if you go across, you should be somewhere about 5 3/8 or so on your white. What I would like you to do is line up the 5 1/4 mark with the edge of your white cardstock and hold it down there. What we're going to do now, because that is going to give you the spacing you're going to want, we're going to make a mark. At 5 1/8, make a small little pencil line, and now at the 0, a small little pencil line. So this is what it looks like. See, when I moved it over to where I lined it up, and then I went to those measurements. So this is going to tell us exactly how we are going to place one of our pieces, how far over. So first we're going to start with this trim piece. And we're going to leave ourselves, we're going to put it right on that line, and we're going to leave ourselves some room, white cardstock at the top. We'll make sure this comes down straight. And I'll burnish that in a moment. But see, I left about the same amount of white cardstock border here as I did it up at the top. This is the easy part. This piece will just come right over the other one to our mark, and we can erase anything if needed, but it will just fit. And we're going to glue this down. And that makes good use of short pieces when we can get away with it. So I'm going to line this up with the top of that piece. I'm going to bring it over to that pencil mark. Make sure I line up here. There's the pencil mark. Looking good. And I'm going to burnish this all down. And I'll erase that little pencil mark if I can see it. Let's grab our pocket. So on your pocket, you will notice you have score lines going down on both sides. And down in the corner, you will see that the line that goes across, whoops, I gotta clean my scissors, makes a little square. We're gonna cut on those score lines to release that little square on each side. Once we do that, we're going to fold back on those score lines, all one direction, and we're going to assemble this pocket. So what you're going to want to do is just fold in your side. You can do one at a time. Notice when you fold in the side that if you were to create an imaginary line that came from the side of this straight down, you're going to want to place your glue to the left of that. And over here, if we did an imaginary line from the side of the fold in here all the way down, we would put it down in the corner. So all we're doing is placing glue down on that little lip in the corner. And we will pull it up now. And I like to keep my hands down to help it, and we're going to burnish. Now we're going to add glue to these little flaps we have. Okay, now this is the bottom of the pocket. These are the sides, and the opening is here with nothing. And all we're going to do is we're going to line it up with the sides of our decorated paper, and we'll leave ourselves a little bit of a white border down below. And we will place this. And we want to try and get this even, so just kind of shimmy it around. If you can end up seeing a little bit of your decorative paper, that's okay. Just make sure it looks kind of straight there. And that looks pretty good. Once you have it, we're going to burnish. Last thing we need is our paper to cover this pocket. Let's grab this out of our reserves. I would love to get that little violin down there, or if you don't want that, you can use the other side. But I would love to get those colors down there as best I can. The first thing we're going to do is turn our piece like this. We're going to measure over 4 1/8 and cut. That is what you should have. Now, I want you to place this down at the bottom of your pocket, and you're going to try and center that violin as best you can, and it's going to leave you a white lip. You're going to come over to the side of your pocket where you can see the white cardstock, and you're going to make a pencil line, and over here you're going to make a pencil line. So now we know we need to cut from here down and here down to try and center that in there. And I'll show you mine in just a moment. After doing that, that's going to work. And I'll bring that down, and I'm going to glue that down. Page 1 is complete. We have plenty of places just to plant our photos, and we have this great little pocket. We're going to apply our score tape now, but we're not going to place it in the book until we've placed page 2. And I'll explain further why I do that. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to lay our score tape all the way around the outside edges like a picture frame. Next, we'll go one down the middle, and we'll go one on either side. We're burnishing. We're going to stick this off to the side. We are now on to page 2. Page 2, we had no pre-cuts. We're going to leave this open so that we can just place a photo or photos. We're going to flip it over and we're going to do exactly the same thing we did on the back of the other one. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle, one on either side. And then we're going to plant this in our book together, and then we will get page 1 in as well. I have my score tape on for my page 2. We want to make sure that the brownish color is at the top, because at least open this up. Your brown should be up at the top of your page 1. So how this is going to work is these are going to place in right on next to each other. They're going to look great. So because white is very hard to see, or any cardstock that is the same, I am going to grab this out of my reserves and stick it behind page 2 so you can kind of see. Actually, a black would be great. Let me grab a black piece. That way you can see around each edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish this down really quick. I'm going to remove the score tape backing, and again, this goes on page 2. And we're going to just place that in there, making sure we are at least 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 away from this hinge here. We have to. If we get too close, the book might not open and shut as, or flip the pages might be up a little bit more. It isn't going to ruin anything if you're sitting only 1/16 away from it for this particular page because it's flat. But do get it about 1/8 of an inch and center that top and bottom and place it. Again, if you need to use a little bit of drizzle, a little glue on here to help you maneuver, do so. I'm going to burnish really quick and then I'm going to place it. Alright, again, I got the brown up here. I'm going to kind of take a look at what I'm doing here. Try to center that top and bottom best I can. Trying to keep it even. And I think that that's good enough. And now we're going to burnish down. Make sure you get those edges and on the inside. Okay, now it's time to get page 1 in. We're going to remove the score tape backing. Now notice where your hinge is. Don't let your eyes trick you by looking at the seam, is what I'm trying to say. You have a seam here from this white piece, and then find your hinge. So when you place this down, you can place it right on that seam so it doesn't show up, but you can get it in, and it should be a good 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch away from your hinge. If you need to shimmy it over a little more, do so. But the idea and the reason why I do this after this is the inside cover is the chipboard. And the chipboard is larger than our inner pages. So if I can get this one down, it's easier to line up the top of this by looking over here how far up I need to place it on that cover so it looks better. So I'm going to get this off and I'm going to place mine. I hope that made sense. Okay, double check, make sure that your pocket is going the right way so you're not putting it in upside down. And we are going to place this. I'm hoping that's, try not to get my head in the video. I'll place mine right there. I'm going to open that up now. And it's imperative that we burnish. We've got to get that down so it never comes up. Okay, there is page 1 and 2. It looks great. We're moving on to page 3. Page 3 has no pre-cuts. What we're doing is we are copying the same design as page 1 and 2, and we are flip-flopping them through our pages. So what we're going to do, there's no pre-cuts for page 3 because we're going to alternate and make this a page we can just put our stuff down to. Find this print in your paper pack. On the back, it's this gorgeous blue. We're going to turn it sideways so you will still be able to see this down here. We'll measure over 7.5 inches and cut. Once you've made that cut, this is what you have. We're going to make 2 cuts. We're going to measure over 5.5 inches and cut. We're going to measure over again 5.5 inches and cut. These are the two pieces that you should have. This one with part of the ribbon or curtain up there, we're going to set off to the side. That's for our page 4. This one, we're going to flip it over. We're going to place score tape around the outside edges like a picture frame, one down the middle, one on each side, and we're going to plant this in our book together. I have all the score tape backing off. We are on page 3. I'm going to grab that black cardstock. I'm going to slide it behind so you can see. Once again, we're going to stay 1/8 inch away from the hinge. Oh, I hope that's even. I think so. Good enough. And we're going to burnish. Page 3 is complete. We are moving on to page 4. We're on page 4 and we have 2 pre-cuts. These pre-cuts are the same as like we had before. So what we did was we cut one 7.5 by 11 inch. We called it a PG4 for page 4, and it's a fold out. We laid this on our scoring board. So we were 11 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch, 5/8, and 6 inch. Next, we had a 4 3/4 by 6 1/8. We laid this on our scoring board. We're 4 3/4 across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. Then we turned our piece, so now we're 6 1/8 across. We scored at a 1/2, and we scored at 5 5/8. We set our main page off to the side when we were cutting for page 3. We're going to start with the fold out, and our hinge is now going to be to the right side. So we're going to fold on those score lines. We'll use our tool to help sharpen up those creases. And then we're going to attach it just like we did before. So hinge is off to the right. We are going to pinch and crease. So we'll still be able to see that other score line. We're going to take that and we're going to hook it back behind our pretty paper. Make sure that it's on. We'll pinch, hold, and we will glue down this flap. I'm going to have to check to make sure no glue is seeping through the other side. So on this page, and I didn't fold yet, but we're going to fold it back. So looking at it like this, we'll just fold it back, make sure we line up with the top and bottom. And we are going to crease that. Let's grab a plus and a minus. So we'll keep that in, and we need to put our plus over here like we did before. This is a very simple, easy album that will hold some photos for us. So we will place it about 1 inch in from the side. We will close that, but first fold back on that other score line so that when you do that, you can see that we have some spacing in there. And by the way, we are going to go back once we get this base pages in and everything. When we're done, we will go back and visit some of our pages to kind of dress them up a little bit. Alright, so that is folded in, that is over. Make sure you're straight over here, you've got your spacing, and we will put the mate. And we'll add some glue under there. Come on, you. There we go. We'll give that a moment to catch, and then we will carefully lift this, and we're going to fold out our pages. We're going to grab our paper for this now. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print, and on the back it looks like this. And this is the side we're actually going to be placing down. Let's turn this sideways so we have this print up here and this down here. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. And this is what you should have. Our first cut, we're going to measure over 5 1/8 and cut. So that's what you should have. We still need this. This one places here. Now for this one, we're going to measure over 4 7/8 and cut. And this one places right here. So what we're going to do is center it in there between our score lines. Get that even top and bottom. We'll glue it down, and the same with this one, making sure we don't get on that score line, and then we're going to burnish it. So let's do that. Okay, I got these down. That looks good. I'm going to fold this in, and we're going to work on this one. In your reserves, you will have this print. We just cut it from the bottom of these. We're going to use this. So I'm going to look at it like this. The pink is over here. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. We're going to apply glue to this side, or you can use this side if you would rather have it like that. That would look quite lovely. Or we can have it like that. And I'm going to go with it like this. Get some glue around there. Mine is down. It's burnished. We're going to close that up. And now we're going to find our paper for here. Once again, we're going to use that little square cut off, and this is what I have. So this is here. We're going to grab, and we're going to grab another scrap piece. So we're going to lay first on the white cardstock so our 0 matches up with the side of the white fold out. And it looks like it's 5 3/8 on the ruler going across. What we're going to do is shift our ruler until the 5 1/4 is to the edge. And once you've done that, come over to the 0, make a line, and at 5 1/8 we're going to make a line. I found I have a long enough little strip, and I'm going to use this. And that's just from the cuttings from the panels that we had. And I'm going to bring that up and straight down the side. Leave a little space up top. And now I'm going to glue this down, match it up over there. And it comes right to the side for me on this one because this trimming was a little more narrow. And I'm going to glue this down. Put that down, make sure I'm straight. That looks good. Perfect. Let's grab our pocket, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. Down here where the score lines meet and make a square, we're going to cut those out. I think my husband's home. The dogs are going crazy now. Okay, let's fold on all those score lines. We'll fold in, come down to the left-hand corner, put a dab of glue. Over here to the right-hand corner, dab of glue. Fold in our sides and pull up the bottom. Whoops. Now we're going to apply glue to this, and we're going to get it on our piece. Okay, I'll leave myself a little bit of space down there. And I'm going to shift it over a little and get this on there. That looks pretty good. Let's burnish. The next thing is in our reserves we will find this beautiful print. And it's blue. I want this right in the center, so I'm going to just lay that down. And we're going to measure to fit first here, and then we can cut across. So I'm going to leave myself a white little lip up there. I've got this pretty much centered. Actually, I can move it over a little more to get that rose in there. However you'd like to do it. I'm going to do it like this where the rose fits on the pocket. So I'm looking at the top of the pocket where I can see the edge of that white cardstock, and I will make a mark here. And I'll come over here, and now I am going to trim. Okay, now I do have to trim up either the top or the bottom, but first I'm going to lay this down, and I think I'm going to trim the bottom because I'm going to leave myself a little white lip. So I'll just turn this sideways so I don't get my head in the video. But I'm going to shift this over just a little bit. Make sure that that white lip on the pocket is showing. I'll shimmy it over so I can see the bottom of the pocket. Then I'll make a pencil mark. And now I know where to trim. After you do that, let's apply glue, bring it to the bottom of the pocket, and then we'll burnish that down. That looks pretty. I hope you like it too. Okay, let's flip this over. Score tape around the back side like a picture frame. One down the middle and one on either side. And we're going to place this in our book together. I have all the score tape backing off. Make sure your pocket is going the right way. Be mindful where your hinges come in about 1/8 inch away. And we're going to place that. And then we can open it up. And we can burnish that. Be careful of your magnet. Looks great. Page 4 is complete. Let's move on to page 5 and then 6. And then we're going to dress this up just a little bit. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print. And on the back, it looks like this. We're going to turn it sideways. The blue is down in the corner. We'll measure over 7.5 inches and cut. By the way, page 5 has no pre-cuts. And this is what you should have. Our next cut, we're going to measure over 5.5 inches and cut. Measure over again 5.5 inches and cut. These are the two pieces that you should have. We are going to save this one for our page 6. So set that off to the side. Let's turn this over. We're going to do score tape around the back side like a picture frame, one down the middle, one on either side, and we're going to place this in our book together. I have the score tape backing off. I'm going to grab my page 5. Once again, I'm going to make sure I'm 1/8 inch in 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to try to get that in there. Okay, and we'll burnish. We're now on to page 6. Page 6, we have the same exact pre-cuts as we have done on the previous pages. We don't need to review them. Let's grab our piece that we set off to the side. We'll place the pocket off there. Now the hinge is going to be off to the right again. Let's fold on all those score lines. And then this one folds back behind. Okay, here we go. On that outside score line, what we're going to do is we're going to pinch on it so we can still see the other one. We're going to hook it back behind so it fits nicely, and we're going to get that tacked down with some glue. Perfect. Now we can just fold that in, and our last set of magnets here, a plus and a minus. Okay, come in about 1 inch from the side. We'll place that. We will close it. We will grab the mate. Oh, and one thing is be sure to push back on that other score line. And check to make sure you're pretty even there. That looks pretty good right there. And we will put some glue. And once we give that a moment, we will open it up to begin. And I think that's pretty well done there. We're going to be working right in here. In your paper pack, you will find this print on the back. It looks like this. Turn it sideways, measure over 7 1/4, and cut. So I want this to sit off-centered, so I'm not going to center this any which way. We're just going to go with this. We're going to measure over 5 1/8 and cut. And this will fit right on in there. We're going to measure over 4 7/8 and cut. We're going to apply glue. Now one thing we can do is flip that right on over, and that would look really good. Let's see what this looks like. That's the beauty of the double-sided paper. You can always flip over too to see what you got on the back. That looks good. Flip that in, and we're going to find our paper for this. And in our reserves we have this, and I think that would look lovely. I'm trying to decide. All of it looks really good, actually. All right, I'm going to have where the big rose is over to the left. I'm going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. Let's apply glue. And we're going to glue that down all the way to the left, leaving a little bit of white border, because in our reserves we have this long strip of wood. And it also has this print on the back. We can put that right on over and it blends in beautifully like that. Or we can use the wood. And I'm probably going to use that wood. So first I'm going to get this one down. Be careful of that magnet there, guys. And now I'm going to add this. So just be careful of that magnet, not to get it. I think that looks wonderful. Let's close it up, and we're going to get our paper for this. In your reserves, pull this out. That's going to be 1. And we're going to do our little thing with our ruler. We'll first line up our 0 with the edge of our white cardstock, and that's going to give us about 5 3/8 across. Now we're going to shift this over to the right so that 5 1/4 matches up with the right hand side of our fold out. At 5 1/8 we will make a little pencil mark, and at the 0. You should have this in your reserves. If you were to lay it down, it's going to be able to fit right on in there. This one goes down first. And you can go either way you want, like this, so that the brown border's up like that. And you can take a look at what it's going to look like that, or like this. And I'm going to go with mine so that it's like this. So the blue part would be down. I'm going to first do this one. Leave myself a little white border up there, get it straight. And then we're going to lay the other one right on over like we've been doing. Now my writing is upside down, but I'm really not going to care about it, just so you know. If you don't like that, you can do something else, but I'm not going to care. Down here in the corner, we're going to pop out these squares from our pocket, and we're going to assemble this like we have been. Folding in and up. Opening at the top, and we will place this. Now the paper I want to use is this, and it's in our reserves, just like this. Now one thing we can do is get the Dream of Me right in the middle, and I think that we will. I'm going to leave a little bit of a lip up there. I'm going to try and center Dream of Me on that pocket as best I can. And now I'm going to measure to fit, just like we've been. So I'm going to cut really quick. Now that I have that, I can place that down, make sure I have that white lip. I'm going to turn it sideways so I can see the bottom of that white pocket. Make my mark. And now I'm going to cut. Let's apply glue and glue that down. That came out good. Okay, flip it over, score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side, and we're going to place this in our book. And here we go. Be mindful of where your hinge is for the last page. And we're going to shimmy this over, and we'll try to line it up as best we can with that. And we'll place it, open it up, and we're going to be careful where that magnet is. And we're going to burnish this down really good. Page 6 is complete. Now, if you are satisfied with the way that your book looks, you are done, and all you need to do is your picture mats. For me, what I'm going to do is quickly run through here, do a couple things, and I will show you so that you can look, pause the video, and do it. These are things that you can do that don't take me to actually show you exactly while I'm doing it. These are easy things. So the next thing to dress this up is with the leftover lace, that yard that we had. So what I did was I cut it down. So how I did that, and I glued it right to the top of the pocket. And all I did, because I want to save this part, is cut around the curves until that piece comes off. And first what I did was I measured going across, so I knew how big of a piece. And then what I did was, after I cut it off, I did it the same down here, and so that I could do the other pockets with it. So that's one thing. In here, I had measured out what I needed to go across. Now this is meant to be a little pocket if you wanted it. It's not going to hold a ton of stuff, but if you wanted to do a picture mat and put something in there, you could. You could actually put your photograph right in there and then a picture mat on top. So that's that, and I did it throughout, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. So it looks really good. Here I did the same, but notice what I used right here. I used the inside now to come over here just for a little something, and if I want to put a landscape photo in there, I can slip it back behind if I wanted to. Otherwise, all it is just for decoration, and I thought that that looked good. And here's our other little pocket. Whether you use it as a pocket or not, it's up to you, because you can always place a photo as well over the top and have that lace back behind it. So I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I think it came out absolutely amazing. I really love it. Happy crafting, everyone, and I will see you real soon on my next tutorial.